Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is September the 22nd, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1443 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2022 on the Greco-Roman calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American court action. I am Sovereign Living Justice Pauline Denise Ritchie in capitis diminutio nolo in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. And my free chosen sovereign appellation is Light to Jury Bay in capitis diminutio nolo in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original, indigenous, ancient, natural, divine heirs. We are the original, indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our energy, and our credit is hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the original, indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan. Just one moment, Moorish divine and national movement for the whole earth. We are the Empire State of Morocco. We're the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We're ancient Washington District for Columbia. We are the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Today we are executing the law by our own sovereign capacity, which is the original, indigenous, natural, divine, ancient, sovereign. Article 3, United States District 4 Columbia Court, and we are the sovereign fiduciaries, receivers, secured creditors, executors, trustees, ministers, claimants, and beneficiaries in this cause for action. We are peace. We are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We are the original jurisdiction, and we are the exclusive jurisdiction for all property, all commerce, all land, all natural resources. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension. We issue a state and federal creditors' bill for possession against all judgment debtors and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, non-pro-tunc. Just a few facts. This coming Friday, which is tomorrow, the 23rd, begins what is known as Rosh Hashanah, leading up into Yom Kippur. What does that mean for the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine, ancient heirs? That just means Rosh Hashanah was originally the time of year where we close out all of the financial aspects of the previous year. We look back on what we have given and what we have taken in for that previous year financially, and then we prepare for the new financial season and the financial year, as well as preparing, which always coincides with the harvest of the previous year's work. So right now we're moving into harvest time for us, and harvest time means that we reap the benefits of all that we have done and all that we have seen and sown over the last year. And for us, harvest time is actually continual. It happens daily. We're always harvesting, whether it be information, whether it be further access to the estate, whether it be unity. We're harvesting positive energy. We're harvesting, prosperity. We're harvesting heirs and the growth and expansion of our vast estate as well. So the new fiscal year for us and for our government starts October 1st. So this new fiscal year is yet another opportunity to sow into all that we have that we intend to reap for the following harvest. On the same note, evictions and foreclosures and repossessions, because again, seed planting and harvest time has everything to do with finance and prosperity as much as it does the spiritual aspect of sowing and reaping and the other aspects of sowing and reaping. So evictions, foreclosures, repossessions, and all that are part and parcel of the closeout that is going on the land right now. In other words, all of those who who have contracts with the foreign fiat system they're being pressed to go ahead and move into termination of all corporate contracts and the acceptance of each and everyone's proper status, whether it be citizen status for those who are not original indigenous heirs, whether it be national status for the heirs. And so this is the time that we're in. We're seeing a lot of that activity pick up. And so for those of us who are helping to usher in the new financial system, this is a good time for us because we're kind of like at the forefront of the movement for this for the system that it's really not new, it's ancient. We're just uncovering that which already was. So right now we're in the process of, everyone should be in the process of revenuing. All property, all land, all commerce, and everything has to be revenued, okay? And we have done that on a macro level, and many have done it on the micro level, or the level of your, the property that you have in your possession at this time. So that is the purpose of all that we're doing is the revenuing and the reversion of our vast estate. And to reverse something means to say it again. And when you do a reversion of a state, that means you use the words to properly state the jurisdiction of your property, of yourselves, of ourselves, our property, and all of that. So revenuing property and land and commerce and everything by allodial title and proper affidavit on the public record, along with a go-back exchange, is what is happening right now. Another key fact, and we're going to talk some more about the revenuing process, because that's what we've been focused on is processes that match what our ancestors put in place. On another note, you may notice on the internet, I know I've seen it more than I'm used to seeing it, naturalization ceremonies done by the foreigners who came here, and they know that we are in our proper status, and they're wanting to naturalize, and so they're having naturalization ceremonies, okay? And at every naturalization ceremony, the quote-unquote colors of the United States banner of amity and commerce are retired. So they do something called presenting the colors, and then they retire them. And here is an example of that, and I'll put the link to this particular ceremony. It's a naturalization ceremony. I'll put this link in the chat so that you can take a look at what's really going on there with regard to them knowing that is not a banner that they're naturalizing under. They're actually under ours. They retired the banner for amity and commerce, or banner of amity and commerce. And so in the ceremony in this link, I did see those who look like us, but they are from other places. And it occurred to me then that even though they look like us from, let's say, Africa or Australia or other places, they still, when they come here to do commerce, they naturalize. Naturalization is a commercial action, and we are non-commercial, and that's a huge difference. Are we going to be doing merchant actions and things? Yes, but the difference between commerce and merchant actions from our perspective is merchants are government commerce. It's on a macro scale. Commerce, especially by those who are not from here, is on a micro scale. Okay. Once commerce gets to a certain point, then the government will step in and say, okay, this is getting big. Apparently, it's what the people want. So we, the government, step in and say, okay, let's make this bigger and bigger. And a lot of the commerce starts either with government doing things and then putting it into the private sector for them to increase it and to grow it, or vice versa. But either way, ultimately, the government has the final say in what goes on, because we want things to be safe for our heirs. We want things to be natural. We want things to be productive, etc. Okay, so I wanted to bring up a couple of things because I was watching. I've been kind of, listening to the subjects talk about or give their perspective about what they see going on the land. And from their perspective, and the only reason we're discussing their perspective is because it is in alignment with what we've been doing. So they've been watching what we're doing, and then their perspective is being put forth based on that truth. So in 2017, and again, this is a combined perspective, okay, and yeah, it's a combined perspective. So in 2017, that's when we started doing this work that we're doing, okay, and I was listening to someone whose name I will put in the chat and state his name in the chat. I won't state it over because there's something about the sound that I'm not going to put it over the air. But there is a subject who has noticed that since 2017, some changes have taken place financially, and from his perspective, he's saying it's a bad thing. But from our perspective, it's exactly what we know has been taking place. Because when we first started doing this work, some could not see that the things that we were doing were having the effect that it's having, but they could see, the subjects could see. And we could see because we know, like we know what happens when we record a lien and file it with our court and put it on the public record. So in 2017, Bundesbank Germany, and I'm saying these names of these banks from an inferior banking standpoint. Bundesbank, because we're the real banks. Bundesbank Germany, Bank of Australia, Bank of Hungary, Bank of Turkey, the Czech National Bank, Dutch National Bank. They all said to, and this is again subjects doing things, and those that are a part of that special purpose vehicle called the United States Corporation Company. And we'll explain that term, special purpose vehicle, from a financial perspective, because again, this has everything to do with the financial status of our vast estate and where that thing fits in at, and where everything is going, and how they connect. Okay, so these inferior banks, citizen banks, let's call them that, citizen banks. These citizen banks said to the citizen Federal Reserve and to the Citizen Bank of England, give us back our gold paper. Give us back our gold paper. Okay, and gold paper is just an inventory of gold that they were claiming. It doesn't belong to them. We know that. But they were claiming it. And they were claiming it while we were asleep. And they said, give us back our gold. So all central banks starting in 2017, and they had actually been doing it before then, but starting in 2017 was when they went on the public record saying, give us back all of our gold. And then the central banks repatriated. They began repatriating their gold holdings and then began buying more gold in 2008, more than they had all bought together in the last 16 years prior combined. So a lot of us have been hearing about how the citizen banks were buying up all of this gold, and in 2017 and 2018, they bought more quote-unquote gold than the entire 16 years prior combined. Now, that brings us to a specific place regarding something called Bitcoin. Bitcoin during that time period was skyrocketing and supposedly much higher in terms of units than quote-unquote the gold that they were talking about. It was higher than citizen gold. And citizen gold is just something that exists on paper that makes them feel wealthy. And so Bitcoin was higher, and they were saying gold was not doing much, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, during this 2017-2018 time period, while Bitcoin was shooting up through the moon, they were saying, oh, gold is not doing anything, but all of these citizen banks were supposedly buying up all of this gold and repatriating. What was really going on there? Because the gold buying, quote unquote, went up 100% in 2019 even. So in April of 2019, the reason why, let me just go back, between 2017, 2018, 2019, the reason why all of these citizen banks were buying gold that existed on paper is because they knew that they had been given a heads up that in 2019, the Bank of International Settlements quietly reclassified gold as the world's only other Tier 1 reserve asset. And again, these are actors. They're acting by proxy. And what does that mean? That means that while they're claiming all this stuff is going on, meanwhile, you can look on the public record. We announced the gold standard in 2018. We placed the lien on the United States Corporation Company, but we started our work in 2017. And they're watching all of this stuff go on. And as Moors, this is one thing about all of us. When we speak, it might not seem like there's a lot of energy going out when we speak, but those who know about something called quantum entanglement know that something major is happening somewhere else because of what we said. So you can say just one sentence that is a very powerful sentence, and when you say that sentence, you might not see things right in your immediate vicinity respond, but something on the other side of the universe has completely been built up or gained some momentum because of what you said. That's quantum entanglement. And we knew that while that our court was speaking and making these proclamations and putting the law on the public record, and we were on these calls voting on things and speaking, that those things were happening. We knew that. And while we were speaking these things, the citizen subjects were saying, okay, the Moors said that the gold standard, and they've liened the United States Corporation Company, so this is what we have to do. And so in April of 2019, the Bank of International Settlements quietly reclassified gold as the world's only other Tier 1 reserve asset, aside from the U.S. dollar and U.S. treasuries, which is what they were using to act out buying oil. Okay, and that's what made the U.S. dollar, quote unquote, the world's reserve currency. But the Bank of International Settlements saw what we were doing as a people and as the nation and as the government, so they said, okay, we got to raise gold up because the systems have to agree. They have to match. They have to coincide. They have to agree. Because the Moors have already claimed and uncovered the ancient system that they had overlaid. Okay, so they had to that corporate overlay had to be moved out of the way, and they started putting things back like they found them. That's why they're called founding fathers, because they found some things, and they started using those things or emulating the use of them, and now we're back. And so since what they were calling or acting out as World War I, since the end of it around 1944, the central banks had only recognized the dollar and treasuries as Tier 1 assets. So the banks were given a warning to repatriate and buy gold ahead of this April 2019 announcement. Prior to this announcement, gold was a Tier 3 asset, reserve asset, which meant that gold was valued at 50% of its value on the balance sheets of the citizen central banks and the Universal Postal Union ledgers and the Federal Reserve ledger, and no one was even using that, because they had gone to an all fiat system. So that gold was sitting in a special purpose vehicle, which is a financial instrument. And so at Tier 1, they're saying in the citizen banks that gold, and they were saying this because those banks are not really banks, we're the bank. Now that we're awake and speaking and have made the financial moves that we as a nation have made. And so at Tier 1, they're saying gold is equal to the value of the dollar and equal to 1 unit of the treasuries on the balance sheets. What does that mean? That means that all of the banks on their balance sheets do now acknowledge gold as equal to. In other words, they have done what we commanded, which is peg the dollar to gold. And then in September 17th of 2019, something called the repo market crashed. What is the repo market? Let me just, only sovereign mint has dollar value, gold round at Tier 1 does not. So yes, a gold rounds is any gold, supposedly gold, because I don't even think it's real gold. I think a gold round is something that pretends to be a coin, but it's not minted by the heirs. And if it's not minted by us, then it doesn't have the value that they say it has. It just doesn't. It's called a gold round, ROUND, and that is not Tier 1 anything, because again, no one can make anything Tier 1 but us. And they were following our lead because we said gold standard. And we can go back and look at the records on social media and everywhere where we said, okay, our nation hereby does announce the gold standard. And again, the gold standard never went anywhere. We just went to sleep. And then when we woke up, we said, okay, nunc pro tunc gold standard. So the repo market just meant that the Moors are preparing to repossess everything that belongs to us. Okay? And yes, we have repossessed everything. That's what that repo market was really about, is the citizens making adjustments on the citizen bank balance sheets and on the Federal Reserve balance sheets, because we're the original Federal Reserve, we're the original IRS and all of that. So we knew that this transfer of wealth was coming. Everyone knew that. And so things had to be put in order. And so as we spoke it, it was being done. So what does this all mean? It means that the system is now dominated by commodities instead of Western debt instruments. That's what all of this means, is that the system that we've uncovered, it's an ancient system. It's always been commodities driven. And what are commodities? Commodities is gold, wheat, rice, beans, platinum, palladium, titanium, sea salt, anything that we produce naturally. That is a commodity. So now that the system is set up, and then you started hearing between that time period, you started hearing citizen states saying, and what is a citizen state? A citizen state is when we say, okay, this is a state, then the citizens get under that and start saying, okay, citizens, the Moor said that we can, that money is, that gold is the money. So, we have to say what they say. So, the citizen state started saying, okay, in Washington or in Georgia, gold is legal tender. Again, they were just following our lead. They knew, and they've been, every time we put something out there, all they did was come back behind us and say the same thing, so that in terms that citizens and subjects can understand. And so that's 2017, 2018, and 2019. And now 2020, what do we see? We see the culmination and the further manifestation of our ancient trade routes. What does that look like, and where can you find that information? The Chinese Belt Road and Rail Initiative, the foundational, that whole piece has been revealed. It is the most dominant merchant commodities strategy in history. What that is it connects the transportation infrastructure of all the bridges, roadways, railways, and all of the maritime merchant channels. It connects all of them throughout Africa, Asia, Europe, Russia, Iran, India, South America, and North America, among everywhere else. It connects all of us together, as it did before. That is, those are the channels, and this infrastructure is the infrastructure that our ancestors used in order to get the sea salt that we produced over to Asia, the other part of Asia, or the other part of Africa, or the other part of, ancient Morocco, of our empire. So that's, and this infrastructure will only be patrolled by our military. These maritime channels and ways will only be patrolled by our military. This project will ensure that everyone can get the supplies that they need. It's already in place. It's already in place. So you can do some research on the Chinese Belt and Road and Rail Initiative, and you can also do some research on the Russia-Iran-India trade corridor, which links the rest of everything together, so that they don't have to go around the Strait of Hormuz. They can just go straight through. And when I say they, I mean we. So we don't have to worry about famine and all of this kind of stuff. We don't have to worry about that. That's not an issue for us. Our land, as long as there's soil and sunshine and rain, we have food. This is the direct result. These initiatives and everything rolling out and everything getting in alignment with the pronouncements and the proclamations and the laws that we put on the public record, it is a direct result of the nationalization of our resources and commodities and ports for entry. Our ports for entry, and this is why we don't need United States Corporation Company passports, in further alignment with the Justice Department's Article 1508, which states that a passport, a driver's license, and a Social Security card are in the absence of a national ID. Well, we have national IDs, which means that in order to use our national IDs, we needed to nationalize the ports for entry, which we have done. And that's where you started seeing things happening at the ports where ships were backing up because they had the wrong ID and things to come through there. They were using maritime documents that were not proper. And so all of that has been, they've been backed on up to where, get the right paperwork, get the right documentation. It has to be in alignment with what the Moors at America have stated on the public record, because we're awake. So this explains the supply chain changes and upgrades that we have been witnessing. This is also why our banking and our financial instruments had to be generated by us and not by paper pirates and corpses. Okay, because this whole new infrastructure, this whole new system, the only way that this system was going to work, because it's ancient, it only operates by instruments that we put on the public record and our own financial system. It will not work with fake fiat and quote unquote Western debt instruments. It doesn't work with debt. It works with credit only. So this Belt and Road Initiative and these maritime channels and things like that going through all of the land only uses credit, not debt. And so this unveiling of our ancient Silk Road supports 100% of the Earth's population and 100% of gross domestic product worldwide. So as we continue to produce things, because all the production had gone seemingly elsewhere, when in reality we are the main producers at Earth of the highest quality products and everything. And so we're getting back to that as the nation, the state, the government, the law. And that's another reason why we needed our own financial system, and it had to be credit-based and not debt-based. Because this initiative also, if you think about the number of contracts and settlement, and the settlement aspect, the financial settlement aspect, settlement being if someone gives an instrument, is that instrument valid in the first place? And if it's valid, when will the real money hit the account? If they write a check, when will the money hit the account? Well, this system, the new infrastructure, which is ancient, makes it, and our money system makes it so that the minute we give the instrument, settlement has already occurred, and they can use that instrument as credit elsewhere. They can take the instruments that we have given and that we will continue to give and produce and generate and they actually have the value of it in their hands. Okay? And so the contract aspect of this Belt and Road and Rail and Maritime Transportation System infrastructure requires that it be commodities based, and that's the reason why this is so important, is it is commodities based. And you cannot do substance for substance with fiat and commodities. It has to be real money and commodities. And real money only comes from real people, not dead persons. So the work that we all have been doing together specifically to get our own money system in place and to do all of the things that we're doing, this is why. And this is information that you can Google. Google the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. Google the Russian, Iranian, Indian trade corridor. You can see all of this, and it is commodities based. So now these actions, all of this stuff, required our assent to our own financial system governed by us. Our ancient new currency and settlement systems have always governed commodities and natural resources, as our systems and currencies are substance for substance exchanges. Fiat systems and fiat currencies are excluded from this infrastructure system. Okay. In 2020, the International Monetary Fund and again, these are citizen organizations. Okay, the International Monetary Fund and over 200 countries, to include Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, which is what has been termed the Brics nations, say they have stated on the public record that they want a new Bretton Woods agreement, which states what the world reserve currency will be and who will hold the world's gold. Okay, we're gonna take that fact and just hang it right over here as we discuss some other things. Just keep that in mind, that the whole earth is ready for the announcement of what's going to be the world reserve currency. Okay, because it cannot be a debt-based instrument. It must be a credit-based instrument. Let's hang that right over here, and we'll talk about that some more at a different time. Just think about the work that we've all been doing here. So also in 2020, and this is all in preparation for us to continue moving in the way that we're moving. In 2020, the weekly commodities market report, they call it the COMEX report here at New York Territory. It added a new commitment of sovereign wealth by what we will call an unannounced or previously unknown group of traders, 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 as in those who trade commodities, to their report. This report is called the Commitment for Traders Report, which shows the positioning of the largest traders on the exchange. Okay. The new group added to the report for the first time ever is called the Others, because there's no name. There's no name. It's called the Others. This is a group of sovereign, bloodline, and birthright people that are the most informed, and this is their words, not, I'm just saying what they said, so I'll put this in quotes. The most informed, well-funded sovereign traders at Earth, they said, on the planet. So we have been added in preparation for true commodities and real money to be exchanged. We are the foundation for the ancient new quantum financial system. They have sovereign, and I'll say family but I really mean bloodline and birthright. Sovereign kinship offices are not on the stock exchange. So when we operate from our status, we use a sovereign wealth office. Our offices, the post office, the president office, the governor office, the imperial divan office, which that's actually an office for the law and for ancient Islamic principles to emanate from, which is that is another special purpose vehicle on our land. We are the foundation for the ancient system. Sovereign wealth offices, in other words, we don't put our office or ourselves on the stock exchange. We don't put ourselves on the stock exchange like what was being done previously where citizens were concerned. What we do is our offices are sovereignly owned and operated, and our offices do the trading for us. Our offices remove the authorities and powers from the banks and financial institutions, quote unquote, and those authorities and powers remain with our offices. So during our sleep, our true estates were protected from all the risk and fraud and the foreign actions and war. As you know, in our sleep, our vast estate was never touched. It was all acting. They were acting, corpses acting, things being done on paper paper and television. That's all it was. It was never, our vast estate was never even touched. And during our sleep, our vast estate was being operated as a special purpose vehicle. Okay, which protected it from all risk. And we say special purpose vehicle because the United States Corporation Company, which is another special purpose, that's actually the special purpose vehicle. But anything that they did was never to pierce the veil of our vast estate. And that's why everyone took on these different, quote unquote, personas. Okay? Why am I saying this? I'm saying all of this because now that we're awake, the fraudulent paper contracts and, of the dead U.S. Corporation Company, they have been placed in a special purpose vehicle, which is to be permanently destroyed by burning, which is what our fiat burning ceremony that we manifested on August the 18th of this past August 18th. That was the start of the burning of that particular special purpose vehicle, because it's a financial instrument, but that's a debt-based special purpose vehicle, meaning that it's a small little thing and our vast estate is all around it as credit, and that small little thing is being destroyed right now with every lien, with every meeting, with every word, with every affidavit, with every court action, with every trust, with every congressional assembly. That special purpose vehicle that was a debt-based instrument is destroyed repeatedly. This special purpose vehicle, or this really what's happening is we have fired all the actors. We fired all the actors. And now what we will be seeing when we see subjects on the land and citizens on the land is not actors, but those that are doing exactly as we have commanded to be done. So why am I saying all of this? Because they've been doing what we told them to do. We have proof based on what we're saying. Please go look this up. It coincides with the pronouncements that we put on the public record. They have been doing exactly as we commanded, while the actors were acting. They were just, they were doing all that they do. Meanwhile, the subjects were doing as commanded. So the United States Corporation Company had 4 quote-unquote pillars of their debt wealth that they could point to and say, oh, this one is wealthy, oh, that one is wealthy. They had 4 things that they used in order to claim wealth. Those 4 things were stocks, bonds, paper real estate, and fiat. And so whenever you saw any of them acting like they had a whole lot, the Bill Gates, the whomever, Warren Buffett or whatever, it was because of one or all 4 of those vehicles, of those debt pillars. So in order for us to overturn the tables of the money changers on our land in this great temple, at this great temple, we had to specifically deal with those 4 debt pillars. All we had to do to stop the madness on this land is deal with those 4. So what did we do to deal with stocks and bonds and paper, real estate, and fiat? We liened all corporations because that's where the stocks and the bonds and the paper real estate was emanating from. The dead stocks, dead bonds, and dead paper real estate, and dead fiat. It was all coming from the corpses and corporations. So we had to lien them, and we're going to continue doing that, and we're going to be teaching that to our heirs and their heirs and their heirs. That's a process that we're going to keep out there on the public record. And because we're not going to leave any corpses on our land. No corpses will exist on our land, and they don't now. But we've got to remember to keep that process going. We've got to continue to teach that. Lien all of them. The ones that were issuing paper, stock paper, bond paper, real estate paper. And then we had to finally, and we have done this, stop using the fiat and provide the real money. Provide it, create it, publish it, and then begin using it. We provided the proof of real estate heirship and ownership in response to the real estate paper. So we had to properly rebut everything that they did. And so we've done that with real estate heirship and ownership and all company assets that were merely claimed by the corporations. We just bound and eradicated all the stocks and the bonds. And we've heard our teachers talk about killing the bonds. Killing the bonds, killing the bonds. We're going to continue to keep those processes in our curriculum. Then we just needed to proclaim the wealth, and we did that first and foremost. The Bitcoin piece. What was the purpose of Bitcoin? And see, some have been saying that, these foreign subjects, they're not going to let y'all get away with just taking all that stuff. They're not going to let you do that. Well, they know that they don't own anything. That's number 1. Number 2, our subjects are going to be fine because they're our subjects, and they're going to be doing just fine according to the Holy Quran. Chapter 29 says that they're going to be fine. But the brilliance of Bitcoin, and let's talk about that for just a moment. Who was it that was pushing the fiat the hardest? It was always those who that system was made for. The fiat system was made for foreigners who came here to do things. Okay? They were pushing the fiat most aggressively. And the ones that were pushing the fiat most aggressively, Bitcoin served to move them off of the fiat so that we would have no resistance when we move that fiat out of the way. So all of those that were just gung-ho for, fiat, 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 they need fiat to do all of this and that, Bitcoin moved all of the resistance that we would have had. And, our ancestors are brilliant. All of the stuff is planned, preordained. It is divine. And so all of those, some of the most assertive seeming subjects and citizens who might, if they didn't have an alternative, they would have wanted to war. But Bitcoin moved them all off the fiat piece, and now it's like, okay, we can just go ahead and move that. Bitcoin was a capitulation move. Capitulation being a move that makes it so that when we speak about the fiat, that they have no problems getting under the Constitution, the protection of the Constitution. Okay, so that was the brilliance of Bitcoin. And so now that we have moved and begun ridding the land of the debt and the fiat, we see now that that they've been in lockstep with the commands that we put on the public record. We're seeing that throughout all that's manifesting even now. And we can actually point to specific dates where we made proclamations, and then that next week the subjects had already done what we've proclaimed, including making the system manifest. And this is something we did. We do it by our word, and they just obey what we say. Make that system manifest, gold as tier 1. That's what we do. Okay. So with that being said, the ancestors wanted me to state really quickly that if the things that we're talking about, if you feel like, you're brand new to Moor science, or you feel like, you can't keep up with some of the things we're saying, the ancestors wanted me to specifically state that if you'll just keep listening, they will make everything clear to you over time. Just keep listening, because we know that that the topics and things that we discuss where Moor science is concerned is not the normal, and I'm not disparaging them, but this is not the normal information that the temples have been putting out and things like that. We know that. And we honor the work that they did, and we honor the work that they do. We just want to ensure that the entire estate is stated properly as not abandoned, because it's not. We're here. And so if you feel a little bit confused about some of the things we talk about, just keep listening and keep, standing, because I know and I'll just briefly state that when I first woke up, I didn't even know I hadn't heard about Moors. I didn't know about Moors. I didn't, I had heard something briefly in like middle school or something about Moors, but they made them seem like they were way over in Europe and that they didn't exist anymore. But then when I woke up in 2017, I went on to the web, to the internet, and saw some affidavits and things that I had never witnessed anything like the affidavits that our teachers had been writing and had already placed on the public record. And the ancestors told me even then, just study, just keep studying. Some of the stuff is going to seem like it got past you, but it didn't. it's going to come in handy. And when it's time, the ancestors are going to put that puzzle piece right in place for you. With that being said, also something to remember really quickly, and this is for the Moors who are Christians, because there are some Moors who prefer Christianity as their religion. And again, for us, the law is our religion. Islam is the law. It's not something where we get to do or not do. No, the law is the law. But for those who are in the Christian environment, we used to say this all the time when we were and we were taught to say this in the churches, that we were a child of the king. Well, that was consenting to be a minor who cannot govern the vast estate, because minors cannot govern the estate. And so what we say has always been a spell, but we have to agree to it. And that's why once we wake up, we watch what we say, and we ensure that we speak against the programming that was put in us. Because, in those environments, we had to confess that someone else was our Lord, someone outside of us was our Lord, or someone in the sky was our Lord, when we're our Lord. We're our God. We are our king and our emperor and empress and queen and all of that. We govern ourselves. Okay? And so having said that, with regard to the whole Christianity in terms of commercial Christianity, not the real Christianity, but commercial Christianity, those who came here to colonize, they're changing their story around a little bit now that we are awake, and they're saying that they did not win the American, quote unquote, the American Revolution, because for a long time we had been hearing things like, oh, we won the war, so you all have to get, you have to do this and that. You have to use our money and all of this and that because we won the war. Well, the American Revolution pretended that with the help of the Moors, the foreign colonial colonists won independence from their king at Britain. But they are now saying that they did not win, and that the proof of that is that attorneys and the British Bar and British Accreditation Registry, or the Bar Association, the foreign colonial one, and foreign subjects doing business as presidents and all of that, actually was punctuating the loss, their loss. So, even they are changing the history, quote unquote, because in all of the books when we were in middle school and elementary school and even high school in some cases, they were saying that they won the American, quote unquote, American Revolution, and, that they, won independence. And they were even stating that the Declaration of Independence was them pronouncing that they were no longer under any king or anything like that. But then still, many of them were attorneys, with the British Accreditation Registry, and we know what happened where the attorneys in the previous era, and again, we're not mad at anyone, we're just pointing some things out. We know how 6 million Moors ended up behind bars. Behind bars. That is, think about that. Behind the British Accreditation Registry bars. It's because foreign colonial colonists brought all of that here. And we consented previously to act that out. And so, even now, the history, quote unquote, is starting to align properly, and the truth is coming out. And for that, we are grateful. So with that being said, our trust accounts, we were talking about our trust accounts with regard to all that we've been doing, the financial system and everything. And the United States Corporation Company is organized, and this is the living one, not the dead one. The living one is organized under us as a special purpose vehicle financially, which is why we, the sovereigns, are outside of the reach of their inferior systems. So it's kind of like you have a wheel inside of a wheel. And this wheel inside of a wheel is a small something in there that looks like it's governing everything, but it's really not. Our estate is very, very vast, very vast. And so those who have been taking lately, taking their oath of naturalization, they are now getting in alignment and putting themselves under the Constitution as stated. Why? Because the former custodian previously in the office of Queen is not there. And so they're scrambling to find some place to go. Okay? And we say that they don't have to scramble, they have to get in alignment and get under the Constitution, the protection thereof. So what has happened, they have just this past week, they had returned to Ellis Island where they began for their own good and retaken the oath of naturalization. And it was led by the former custodian previously in the office of Attorney General, Merrick Garland. It was led by that particular subject. And I'm going to put the link to it in the chat because I think it's important that we look and see what's going on and know that everyone else knows who we are. They know what we've done, and they know why we've done what we've done. And that they're in alignment with that and taking oaths back to the Constitution like they're supposed to. I did notice in this particular ceremony, and just remember, not even a month and a half or so ago, we showed the fiduciary letter for Merrick Garland. And so what did they do? They did exactly as commanded, back to Ellis Island and take an oath to this land here and to the Constitution. And so that whole department, supposedly, quote unquote, and I say department, but that's not who they are. They're subjects. His whole group of subjects went there to Ellis Island and retook their oath in this link that I put in the chat. So when they speak, Moors, know that they're not talking to us. When they speak, when they start talking about things that are going on and, this investigation was open and la la la, they're not talking to us or about us. That's citizen stuff. And not only is it citizen stuff, but we can look at it and then say, okay, we're going to implement or adopt this part of what they're doing for our state and our nation. okay, and then know how to continuously invoke, stay in the proper jurisdiction for us, Islam. So with that being said, are there any questions or comments or wisdom with regard to anything that we have stated? We will put the call in just one moment. In this mode here so that you can, just one moment. One moment. So that you can just star 6 and one moment. Yeah, you can star 6 if you want to speak about or ask about or state anything with regard to what we have stated thus far about the state of our nation and what's going on the land and any of that, or if you have any questions regarding. Just one moment. There was a question in the chat also that I said I was going to come back to. Does a Moorish endorsement still count as a gold coin? Only to the Moors who know that their signature is real. Islam nobility.
Yes, I've been getting a lot of affidavits together. I have a stack of them here, and I've been planning to send them out. But I go to the local post, and I noticed that most of them are, well, they don't want to accept the fact that it's prepaid and that it's non it's non residential and commercial, and so I see my next step is to lien. I haven't liened them, so I have to lien everybody in this town, it seems like, because that's the only way it's going to happen. I see that's most likely will be what the route I have to do. I've been trying not to get too make too much noise, but I see I'm gonna have to.
Yes, you do.
But,
governing is not a choice.
Right.
We don't have a choice.
You're right.
And additionally, nobility, you don't even have to talk to them. You just go put it in the deposit box. You don't have to go into the room where they are. There's a deposit box right when you first walk into each post office. There's a deposit box somewhere in there, and you just put it in the deposit box.
Okay, so I'll do that because when it comes to all my affidavits that I want to send out, I have a stack of about 10 of them, and I have the receipt and all that I took. I put the receipt, the return and all on them, and the person tells me, well, I can't send it through the machine. I can't put them. I said, all you have to do is zero it out, and you can have all these put into the machine. He don't want to do it. He says he can't. He'll just let them go, and they might make it where they want to go, and they might not. I'm like,
yeah, he's right. He's right that he can't do it because that's above his pay grade. And so, did you see the video that we did on how to do that? How to do the mailing process?
I've done it like accordingly. Yeah, but so as long as I have the receipt, it doesn't matter because I'm all the work I've done. I'm saying he's saying that if you'll just send them through, and they might make it and they might not, and that I wasn't satisfied with that.
Why are you even talking to them? Why even talk to them? This is above their pay grade.
Okay, so I just put them in the box.
He's telling you when you put it in there that it might get there and it might not. It's going to get there. But he can't tell you that. You're supposed to know it. You're his boss. You're supposed to know your job. They can't tell you your job. You're supposed to know that.
Right, okay. I get it. I sort of was feeling that, but I sort of got cold feet about it. But I agree.
Yeah,
okay.
it's okay. I get that. I get the cold feet piece, but we have to govern. And so when you put it in the box, just like we did in the video, we even showed how all we did was put it in the box. We don't have to talk to them because, see, their job, let me tell you what their job is. Their job is commerce, and you're not doing commerce.
Right, okay.
So they're going to give you the commercial spiel. They're going to give you the citizens' commerce spiel. Citizens cannot do what we do.
Right. Yeah, he tells me, well, according to, my opinion, I think this prepaid here is fake. And, I didn't want to respond to him. I just, I said, I guess I'm not going to argue. But I see I'll have to maybe a lien, but
you do have to do that. That's a lien is necessary. Yes, a lien is necessary.
So I came home and I'm gonna send I'll put it in the box. I won't talk to him about it. I'll just put it in the box.
There's no need to. You have the receipt. You see what I'm saying? You have the receipt.
Yeah, I have the receipt. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's done it before, and half of them came back, the receipts, and half of them didn't. So I was thinking, I don't know, but
well,
yeah, I'll do that.
Let me say this about that: if half of them came back, then that means they can do it, right?
Yeah, that's true. They can do it because half of them did come back.
That was a test for you, nobility. Do you know? Because see, they've already shown you that they can do it. Not only can they do it, they shall do it. But you have to know. It's a test for you. Not them. Right. They already know they have to do it. Right. But if you don't know and you're the boss, then they're going to cut up because, that's what the kids do. They cut up. If mom and dad don't know, they cut up. If the boss doesn't know, they cut up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you. That gives me a little more assurance there. Yeah, I will.
Yes. Yes, they tested us the same way, nobility, and after a while, we just got to the point where we put that thing in the box and keep on going, and it didn't matter whether we got a green thing back or not, but we've shown you where we get them back. All we needed was one from anywhere. That's all we really needed. Right. Was one receipt that says at least one agent, principal, heir, assign, or any derivative thereof got it. That means everybody got it.
Yeah, I got it from the Library of Congress. Yeah, I got that one back.
So your stuff is recorded. Your documentation and the laws that you have written are recorded on the record at the Library of Congress.
Right. Yeah.
That ought to tell you that they can do it, that they must do it. So that was a test for you. And they're going to test until we know for sure. And when we know for sure, they'll stop testing.
Yeah, that must be what it was. Because he's saying, this is fake, and I just sort of laugh it off, because I know I've done it before.
He was Captain. And it is fake for citizens because they're not supposed to do that. They're not the government. You are. You are. But you have to know that.
Yeah, well, he should be able to tell with the, the return where it says Morris National that
that's not their job. That's above his pay grade. It's not their job. It's our job to know who we are. We're writing the law. When we're writing the law, how do we not know what the law is?
Yeah.
You see? And that's from their perspective, that's what they're saying is, you created us. How do you not know? So they're going to tap dance and do a few things and talk crazy. If he thought they were fake, if he really thought they were fake, he would have filed a report or something like that or called policy enforcement. But they know that that's not. He was just messing with you.
Islam.
Just a moment, Empress. He was messing with you.
Yeah, I get you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Islam.
Yeah. Islam, Empress.
Islam, I want to give him an example of what it was like being low level at a job. Okay, I was working at a gas station, and they wanted us, whenever we dealt with the customer, they wanted us to touch the who, what, when, where, how, and why. Make sure the customer was taken care of. It was scripted for us to say, did you find everything okay? And, it was scripted for us to do that. And then I was on another side of retail where I was a secret shopper. And so the secret shopper would go in as a customer to make sure that low-level cashier was asking all the questions on the customer service level. So it wasn't even, that was just doing the cashier's job, to ask certain questions, to go through a certain format. And it didn't matter. If a customer found everything that they needed, I rung them up, they left. If they didn't, I'll point them somewhere. But that's as far as it really was thinking-wise. And so if you're going up to the cash register at the post office and you're asking them stuff, they're just, they're just doing protocol. So, and protocol for the customer. So since we're not customers, we're asking them to go beyond what they are normally supposed to say. They're just supposed to address certain things, and that's it. That's their pay grade. So just
Yeah, I agree. You see, the thing is with me, I wanted to see him put them through the machine. I wanted to see him put them, like each of them, so I can track them. And that's what I was looking forward to. But I realized I shouldn't have wasted my time trying. I should have just put them in the box and left it at that, because I'm sure half of them would probably come back or something. But I just wanted to try to get him to put them in the put them in, zero it out, and put them in through the machine where I can track them. That's all I was trying to do, actually. But he wouldn't do it. So
they only do what they're supposed to do.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
Islam. And thank you for your demonstration, by the way, Nobility. It's important for us to do those things so that we can see. We have to do the demonstration so we can see, how what they're supposed to do, how far they're supposed to go, and all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just going to send them through, and if they make it, and they might not, And I'm like, but you could just zero them out into the machine, just zero them out, and they'll, you have them, on file. He
said they might make it, right?
Right.
Okay. He was playing with you because he knows they're going to make it.
Right. Yeah, he just tried to mess with me because he knows there's a lot of files. It's a stack. And he told me I wanted to really make sure they did where they're supposed to go. And he was just messing with me. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
And you can kind of sense when they're doing things like that. But I want to, again, and I'll put this up again with regard to, see, here's the deal, nobility. When you put the documents in the deposit box, they were already considered delivered to those who you sent them to, and the people there know that because they are agents of ours. They work for us, and so
Right.
if you look on the screen, nobility, can you see? I'm not sure if you're calling by phone or if you're on your computer.
I'm on the phone.
You're on the phone. Okay.
Yeah.
On the screen, I put something called the posting rule or the mailbox rule. The posting rule or the mailbox rule is also known as the postal rule or deposited acceptance rule, and it is an exception to the general rules. Acceptance of an offer takes place when communicated. Under the posting rule, that acceptance takes effect when a letter is posted, that is, dropped in a post box or handed to a postal worker. So whenever you hand, I would ask that you do the study on the posting rule.
Right.
Google it and look it up so that you can see that the minute you get it to the post office, it is considered delivered whether you get a return receipt back or not. That's called the posting rule or the mailbox rule. Why? Because the post office is agent, principal, heir, assign, or any derivative thereof on both sides. For us and for them. It's called neutral ground, neutral territory.
Okay.
Okay. The rules of contracts by postal rules says that an offer made by a post or letter is not effective until received by the offeree. We are actually, when we give it to them, the offeree is the post office. The offeree is not whoever else it is. The offeree is the post office.
Right. Okay.
Acceptance is effective as soon as it is posted. That means given to the post office.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a return receipt, so I should be able to. I should be able to track it. I do have a return receipt anyway. I put all the return receipts on all of them. So.
Yeah. But
even
you're welcome, nobility. Even if you don't get one back, you still have your tracking number. And again, if the minute you give it to the post office, it's a done deal. You can proceed accordingly.
I should have.
That's another reason too, nobility, why sheriffs, those fake sheriffs, they would put something on a door, and it didn't care whether the wind blew it away or anything. They would still hold those persons accountable for that.
Right. Okay.
Because they know the posting and the mailbox rule.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. That's common sense. Yeah, I appreciate that.
You are the Lord. You are the Lord.
You're waking up. Yeah. Thanks. Islam.
Islam, Empress.
Jasha, Jamaica territory.
Islam.
A question. Lien, the Postmaster General. Is it?
He's not the Postmaster General.
Sorry. Let me hang on 1 second. I'm going to correct myself here, and I actually wrote down your where is it now? Let me see now. Hang on. I'm going to get it. The former.
You are the Postmaster General.
I am the Postmaster General. Right.
Yes, you are.
So I leaned the former custodian in the office of Postmaster General.
Islam.
And for Jamaica, is it necessary to lien each? It's not necessary to lien, like for instance, the local one here. I have an instance where they actually, before I knew about the prepaid mailing and everything, they refused to mail a letter because they refused to accept my national ID. And, I mean, they refused to let me handle the mail, and that set off a whole heap of things. But my question is, do I need to lien that particular post office in addition, or because I've liened the former custodian?
Okay, so did you on the lien that you did you put all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivatives thereof?
I did.
So you don't necessarily have to. However, I encourage Moors to go ahead and lien the locals also, because all law is specific and you want to speak specifically to them.
Okay, okay.
And another lien on the record will not hurt. In fact, it's going to help because you're creating a local account as well as the national account.
Okay, okay. And I also have a video of that actual experience, so I'm certain I can use that at some point. All right, thank you. Islam.
There's a question in the chat that says, did the subjects deliver your conveyance? Remember I had said that I was going to change the delivery date. I changed the delivery date on there for the reason that I stated in that call. So the delivery date has not gotten here yet. So the answer is no, because they were told a different date. By the time they got the paperwork, it had the new date on there. So are there any other questions, comments, etc.? They went through. Empress Rosetta says in the chat she mailed out writs the other day and made sure that the former custodian previously in the office of PMG or Postmaster General DeJoy was included, and she said that her documents went through. So again, that means, Empress Rosetta, that you have also accessed the trust. And to the noble who just spoke about his experience at the mail, at the post office, you too have already accessed the trust, because if even one of those goes through, you've accessed the trust. And the rest will go through when you know that you don't have to speak to them or talk to them or check with them or anything. They're doing commerce, we're doing government work. That's why the box is even there. The box is there because we don't have to go to them for anything, because we're not asking them anything. We don't need their permission. We don't need any information from them. We know how to do our government work. And that's why the box is there in the first place. It's a deposit box saying we accept your payment. And if it were a bank, we would be on the side of the teller, and they would be giving us the money.
Islam,
Empress.
It's me again. You know, I'm just thinking out loud now.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I was trying to make a co-warrantor, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that I was using fiat, I was doing commerce, really, wasn't I? Even though I was there as a Moor with my ID, and I'm sort of looking at the whole situation now and realizing that I was actually out of order.
Yes, and they knew that.
And that's, yeah, I mean, even though I wonder if she really knew that, but
they know. They know.
Yeah, I was really, now that, you know, as I'm like, wow, okay, I actually stepped in the doo-doo that day.
Yes.
So,
Empress, let me just thank you for saying that, simply because we were all at one point or another under we were all eluded. It was not clear to us that we have to be 100% ourselves.
Right.
100% ourselves. So some did not understand why they were saying they were Moors. They got pulled over. They got put into a jail cell, not knowing that it's because there was still a contract on the conveyance, or still or the week before they signed something saying, whatever, without speaking by affidavit.
Correct. I mean, I really didn't know. I knew the part with the ID, and I knew, but I really didn't know. Yeah. And honestly, it's like a light bulb went off as you were speaking on it and realizing, okay, I was trying to serve two masters at that point. I mean, that was really the truth of it. And
Empress, I'm glad that you're not beating yourself up about that, because the ancestors were generous and kind, because no one came and tried to manhandle you and put you in a cell or anything like that. Right. But it's clear to you now. It's clear.
It's so clear. It's so clear, and I feel quite calm about it, because it's another piece in the puzzle. It's another piece in the puzzle, and the boots are heavier on the ground now. So
yes. They always know, because this is more spiritual than it is natural. Yes. They always know. Even if I know Moors that they were clean and clear until the week before, when they thought that nobody saw them sign, let's say, an unemployment contract the week before. No one would have known that they signed an unemployment contract the week before, and the next week something completely seemingly unrelated happens, and they meet with resistance, and sometimes the resistance is strong. That was the ancestor saying, remember where you contracted with them last week when you thought no one could see that. Yeah. And I will say this about all that we do. Whenever I hear of some of the things that the Moors go through, I already know that that's what happened, but because I didn't see them sign it, because I already know how. I mean, it's becoming clearer to all of us that it doesn't matter whether anybody saw you sign the unemployment slip. Doesn't matter whether the ancestors saw you do it. When you know better.
And that's the spiritual piece. That's
the spiritual piece.
The piece of the transparency, the sincerity, the truthfulness, the honesty, that's the piece.
That's it.
That's the piece. And that's the piece that is the most important, even when you're ignorant, because you don't know, but it's the knowing and the experience that actually causes you to know. It puts it right in your face, on your forehead, I mean it really, and that's the fact, and to not be rocked by that, to be solid, solidified.
Teach, Empress. Yes.
That's really, I mean, I'm honestly, I feel I have grown, and I'm growing in that knowing, that realization for me a couple minutes ago, where, wow.
Yeah.
As I was arguing that she was doing wrong, but she was just doing what she does, and I had more information that needed to come to me so that I could do. And what transpired after that was part and parcel of my training. But that's a big piece. So I thank you.
Empress, that's the only piece we have left, as far as I'm concerned, as a nation, in terms of Moors knowing that it's what you do when you think no one's looking that determines the outcome of everything else.
Right.
It does.
That's it. Your art is showing, whether you think so or not.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Or not.
There's one to that.
Or not. If you're doing the right things when no one's looking, it's going to manifest, because the things that you say and the things that you put forth are going to manifest.
That's the truth. I mean, that is the truth. Whether you're doing wrong or you're doing right, it's the truth.
It's going to show.
Outcome will be The truth.
Yep.
So
Yes.
yes, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. I tell you, yes, I yield.
Listen, we could adjourn right now with that piece right there. Because when I hear of the things that some go through, I'm thinking, where is that contract at? Mm-hmm. There's a contract in there somewhere. I know it. Because I've been there myself previously where I saw that the ancestors were cleaning and clearing. Mm-hmm. They were cleaning house over here. Mm-hmm. And I had to yield to them cleaning house. And that actually puts when we allow the house cleaning to happen, that puts that protection around us that is impenetrable. Nobody can touch it. Yeah. Just yield to that. Yeah. Yield to that. Yeah. That part right there. That part is more important than anything else, if you ask me. Is what we do when we think no one's looking, and what we think when we think no one's listening, and our intentions, because the intentions, I'm just saying, that is why the law is based on intention. If someone is, let's just say someone gets hurt. Mm-hmm. Well, what was the intention of the one who caused the hurt? Was it an accident and they really had no intention of hurting anyone? Right. That's why law is there. That's where law rests. Yep. That's a hint for us to clean and clear intentions and be sincere and be ourselves and if it's and just state that it is what it is. And it is what it is. And I am who I am. And that's Yes, because I can tell you from personal experience that when it comes to intentions and making sure that we keep our energy clean and clear, mm-hmm. that you can walk into the valley of the shadow of death and you will have nothing to fear. I've done it. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah. And that's why I don't feel like I need 50 guards, Moorish Muslims around me. It's unnecessary. It really is. We really are covered. Very powerful. I mean, I know that. I'm talking from my own. I know, Empress. I'm telling you, yeah. I know this. Yeah. I know this. And we just have to keep on, walking in the light, in the truth. That's it. That is it. And when we stumble, when we fall, if that, you know what I'm saying, you buck your toe, it's an oops, because, okay, there's a lesson. Yeah. There's something I missed. There's something I'm missing. But if my intention is clear and my heart is pure, yes, all is well. Yes, it is. Another step on that board, the game board. It's. It is what it is. It is. The ancestors taught me early on that when we're being tested, if we go into the testing looking for the lessons instead of reacting emotionally, like we've all done at one point or another, mm-hmm. If we go into it saying, okay, this is happening, so what do I need to learn in here, ancestors? What do I need to know? And then they'll start pointing things out, and the grace and the mercy come into play, mm-hmm. and they start, and then you triumph so quickly that it's unbelievable. Yeah. And that test, it'll be done before you know it, because you've already found what the ancestors were trying to show you in the first place. You've yielded to the lesson. Yeah. Yield to the lesson, and things get so much easier. Ooh, they get so much easier. Yeah. I mean, the truth is we do, a lot of our suffering and troubles are caused from not
hearing, not from fighting what we don't need to be fighting. You're over there busy trying to break down that door, and this one's swinging in the wind, which is where you ought to be going.
Yes.
You know, and that I know this. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Empress, let's you and I and those on this call and those who are listening who get that and who know it, let us send that energy out right now to all others so that they don't have to go through some of the things that we've seen them go through that were just completely unnecessary.
Absolutely, Ashe. Yep, absolutely.
We send that energy forth right now without delay. In its most strong and highest honor to them for demonstrating in the first place. We send that forth right now. Nunc pro tunc.
Nunc pro tunc.
Yeah. Because I've seen Moors go through things that even while they were going through it, they were fighting and railing against the things in the natural when it was a spiritual thing to begin with.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is with the subjects. We don't have to, and I learned that early on too. I don't have to yell at them and all that. Even again in 2017, when the policy enforcer stopped me, I was I was only 5 months old then. But the ancestors taught me right then and there that that's not necessary.
Yeah.
They said, you don't even have to talk that loud, Light. What are you yelling for?
Well, yep. I did do some screaming and shouting with this whole thing. But you know what?
Yeah.
Everything is for the lesson.
And you know what, Empress? Look how strong and powerful you are after that lesson. Look how strong and powerful.
That is the truth of it. And I know that everything that I did do was authentic, the authentic me who was responding
in
the way I could at that time, and that helped to gird me.
Yes.
And I don't need to do that now. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to do that. But that force and that fire that came through is what do you say, forged the steel.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. That's a great way to put that, Empress.
Yeah. So it is what it is. And I give thanks.
Islam, I do too. Islam, nobility.
Islam.
I like to give thanks too, because I'm going to tell you, I was wrestling with that Google Sheets, trying to figure out how I'm going to make a receipt. And let me tell you, it came to me, and I started doing this, that, and the other, and clicking on this and clicking on that, and just trying to figure out how stuff worked. I know it was nothing but the ancestors, because it just came to me so easy all of a sudden. I said, wait a minute, something ain't right. Because I was just struggling with trying to figure out how I'm going to get this thing to work in my favor.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the ancestors was working with they was moving my fingers, I think. I don't know what happened.
Yes, they were.
It was crazy. I've experienced it before, but not in that manner, because I was really frustrated at first. And then all of a sudden, I took a walk. I did like 3 miles, and I came back. And that's when it just came to me so easy.
Yeah.
So it was just a quite an experience. I felt good about it.
Yeah. There's nothing we can't do when we clear energy, nobility, and that's what you did.
It had me concentrating, thinking that I was focused on trying to get this thing, perfected. And
yes.
That's what happened. So, man. I like to just.
I'm glad to hear that, Justice Akil. I'm glad to hear that.
Well, you inspire us all, so I can't even say it's all just me. I know it's you too, because you're inspiring us to do things, because otherwise I wouldn't be trying to figure this stuff out right now.
Islam. And the ancestors make it so that that when we step outside of our comfort zone, because I use that term a lot, step outside of our comfort zone to do something, they will make it seem like we just knew how to do it all along. It gets to be really, yeah.
I yield, though. Thank you.
Islam. Empress Angel has a presentment that she is going to do with regard to that whole employment piece, right, Empress Angel?
Islam.
Okay, so I am actually going to yield the floor and let Empress Angel do what she does best. And Empress Angel, do you want to take the presenter? Do you have a document that you were going to present, or you just want to go ahead and speak through?
I mean, I don't even know if I know how to share the screen.
We'll do it. We'll do it together. I'll show you how. Just one moment. Let me go to that part. Just one moment. Empress Angel, say something really quickly, and let me.
Islam.
Okay. There it is. Switch presenter. Are you sure you want to switch presenter? Yes. Empress Angel, you should see something on your screen.
I do. It
okay.
Says,
yeah.
Share desktop.
Yes, Islam.
Okay.
So a couple of weeks back, we had stated that we were going to further discuss the employment piece. One of our brothers, who we highly honor, had brought up the Illinois Wage Payment and Collection Act, where for the Moors who want to do that, and even as we as employers, we will be hiring people, and so this is a piece that we need to know, both for those that we're going to hire and for those Moors that are going to be hired. And with that, I yield the floor. Islam.
Islam, can y'all see my screen? I don't know.
Yes. Can you make the document a little bigger, Empress? Because it's kind of like a screen inside of a screen right now. Yeah, right there.
Oh, that's way too big. Can y'all?
Islam.
Is that better?
Perfect.
All right. So continuing, yes, from the conversation of employment, I'm pretty sure, I will hope most have read this in their time studying. If not, I will put the link in the chat later. But Empress Light had shared the video also of the brother going over the Employment Wage Act and Collection Act. And so I just wanted to go over some of the things that was highlighted, just to be brief and just to get to the point. And it says, as used in this act, the term employer, and I put trustee here because everything was always done in a trust, whether it was from the corporate side or the de jure side, is always trust. So it says, employer shall include any individual, partnership, association, corporation, limited liability company, business trust, employment and labor placement agencies where wage payments are made directly or indirectly by the agency or business for work undertaken by employees under hire to pay a third party pursuant to a contract between the businesses or agency with third party, or any person or group of persons acting directly or indirectly in the interest of an employer in relation to an employee for which one or more persons is gainfully employed. And then, so I put this word down here, and it was referring to, from my interpretation of understanding, overstanding, it was referring to collective bargaining. So
may I interject for just a moment? I just want to interject that when we're talking about employees, employers, contracts, and all that, we are not talking about contracting with corpses and dead in a dead state. We're actually preparing our state, our sovereign empire living state, to do these things, because we have to govern every part of our estate. So that's what we're talking about. We are not talking about contracting with the dead. Islam. I yield.
Very true. Islam. Thanks for pointing that out. And so, yes, collective bargaining, because once we read this definition of what collective bargaining is, then you understand that we were never in the position to be a collective bargaining, right? So it says collective bargaining, negotiation of wages and other conditions of employment by an organized body of employees. So when we get back to here, this is what collective bargaining is supposed to look like. So I myself have had numerous jobs, right? I have never been asked, when being in the interview, during my 6 months review, never have I ever been asked for my thoughts or my opinions or my perspective of negotiating wages and other conditions of employment by an organized body of employees. I was never asked any of those questions to be a part of any organized body, right? So with that understanding, overstanding, then you can start to look and see how we were put into a slave system. And because this act right here is on the books for employment, for people in the corporate sector, as it were, because that's where it was found, for all people, right? All persons and people. But when you really get down to the nitty-gritty, you can't access any of this if you're not in your sovereign status, in your sovereign capacity. And you can't do this, like Empress Light had just mentioned, if you're not doing it with your own people, because you're creating a contract with a corporation. Is dead, and we don't do that. It's not beneficial on anybody's part. So speaking of beneficial and beneficiary, so moving on, it says, as used in this act, the term employee, which would be our beneficiary, shall include any individual permitted to work by an employer in an occupation, but shall not include any individual. So I was like, interesting. So I wrote this here: stated difference of control, jurisdiction. Right? So because when you break this down, is stating that there's two jurisdictions here, because it says, as used in this act, the term employee, which is really a beneficiary, because they're benefiting, well, they're supposed to be benefiting from their gainfully skilled labor, which would be compensation, right? So it is stating that shall include any individual permitted to work by an employer in any occupation. But so it says but, so we know that negated everything prior, but shall not include any individual. So it's saying you can do all of these things, but you can't be individual. So I'm like, what would individual look like? Well, probably a private contractor, somebody who knows their person, has claimed their person, somebody who is in their proper persona, So it's saying you can be and get these benefits, but you can't be an individual. So that's just the complete, it just negates everything. So the only way, like Light has said, is the only way you could activate any of this is to be in your proper person and to do business with your own people.
May
right?
I interject?
Yes.
Okay, so we're the state. Whether we're working or whether we're, no matter where we are the state. And so if I were to use this, if I were to elevate this act to the law, and then go down to the post office and say, I'm going to be working here. Well, because I know that we are the state, I don't come by myself. I'm coming with the whole state. The fiduciary for the state is Pauline Ritchie in capitis diminutio minima or in capitis diminutio nolo, either one. My all caps, I would be governing my all caps on this. My natural person, I would be governing my natural person. So when I go down there, I'm going down there not as an employee, but I actually am the employer. And each and every Moor on that job who has declared their nationality is the employer. Have you heard of employee-owned companies?
Yep.
That's what all of that is about, and that's what the unions back in the day, you know, Jimmy Hoffa and the unions and all of that, that's what that whole union piece was, is that the Moors and the citizens were coming together to work together to build the estate, except there was a usurpation that happened. So now when we go to the workplace, we're going there as employer. We're the CEOs. We're all of that. No matter what your job is on that, no matter what your responsibilities are, you are the head of the company. You determine the nature and the jurisdiction of the company. Just like the Empress was saying, she mentioned, you mentioned jurisdiction, Empress Angel. The heads of the company determine the jurisdiction, because the company has to be started and naturalized in the proper jurisdiction. And that's what happens when we go there. Islam.
Mm-hmm. Islam. And this was the top of my document. And well, just Empress just stated, got me to remember that you would be a private contractor in your own person capacity with another Moor, because we govern ourselves. So you would be the one to create a contract and, you know, give it to the next Moor, and they will accept the offer most likely, because, you know, we are to do business amongst ourselves. So I just put here as a note, exoskeleton apparatus, i.e. Iron Man, because I remember watching that movie when he wanted to do his work as the Iron Man. He would put on the suit, and then that would give him the ability to go and accomplish his feat or whatever he had to do. So it says to get what he needed to accomplish, he put on the suit to gain the strength to get the job done. So we, the government, we are the government always. Exoskeleton apparatuses are businesses that are created around us to get things in and with strength. We, the people, are and will always be the power source. When you decide to create and participate in the merchant life, putting on the Iron Man suit, i.e., yes, to get the job done and to do so. And then it says, anytime you are an employee, reversion of the state, you must be in a sovereign state to properly claim the benefits. Otherwise, you are seen as a true employee. Otherwise, are you seen as a true employee? Question mark, beneficiary of a trust. Because, like I stated before, these corporations, they were doing business as trusts, because when you hear the board word, that they just cut off trust, board of trust, right? But it was still a trust that they were operating in. And little did we know when we were sleeping, really, that you were listed as a beneficiary but classified under employee, because they would give you benefits, right? They would give you, 401k benefits if you opted into it. They would give you benefits, vacation benefits if you qualified, but there was always a stipulation. And we as Moors, we don't have stipulations. We're sovereign, and we have what we have because we state so. So yes, and just continuing on, for time's sake. Here we go. Any employee who is absent at the time fixed for payment, or who for any other reason is not paid at that time, shall be paid upon demand at any time within a period of 5 days after the time fixed for payment, and after the expiration of the 5-day period, payment shall be made upon 5 days demand. Payment to the absent employee shall be made by mail if the employee so requests in writing. All wages are final compensation shall be paid in lawful money of the United States by check redeemable upon demand and without discount, which would be also without tax, at a bank or other financial institution readily available to the employee, which would be the beneficiary, by deposit of funds in an account in a bank or other financial institution designated by the real, true, sovereign beneficiary, what they have employee, or by a payroll card that meets the requirements of Section 14.5. So what this is saying is what it just said, that we have the right to command and demand our compensation, our just compensation, within a timely manner, a swift one at that. And so we can do as we command, and payment shall be done by mail. And I know that Empress Light had talked about that some time ago on a previous conference call that we had about mailing our checks, because it didn't have any other means for which it would to be, sent to us. So, and this is our sovereign way of receiving things anyway, by mail. So, and see, it says right here, writing. So that's also a key to us, that we've been doing the right thing, because we always been writing things down. So, at this point, I have nothing else to say. I yield. If, yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Empress, for that, because this is really important, especially with regard to where we're going next as the nation, the state, the government. We create our own employment contracts, we create our own salaries, we create our job descriptions, and then we naturalize the company by both our presence and our paperwork. So like even our tax status is according to the paperwork by which our employment is gained, okay, or by which the CEO has stated that the company is to operate. By our liens, we've already nationalized the resources. So before you go and go to work somewhere, you will want to place a lien on everything moving, and then see your salary is actually going to be, and this is why we can dictate whatever we want to dictate in terms of, and of course we want to be lawful and honorable where salary is concerned. But the reason CEOs were making $3 and $4 and $5 and $6 million a year is because they were able to dictate their own salary based on performance.
Mm-hmm.
That was really technically an honors system. We can dictate that and write that into our contract to make sure that the company does well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and you mentioned before in our conversation about unions and how we were unified, and that's where the true union came from. And so any other, corporate union has been a downplay of our true unified system of doing labor and business, for that matter.
Yeah. Unions also was kind of like when the citizen subjects and the Moors who owned the companies came together and said, okay, we're going to push this company to its best, to be its best. The unions made it so that we, Moors, would make sure that the subjects had a livable wage. Okay, and that's again chapter 29 of the Circle 7, the Holy Quran for the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. We made sure that the subjects had a livable wage. They got wages, we got compensation, and that is how it's supposed to be. And when the Biblios Heliotext says the wages of sin is death, that means we were accepting wages that were not gold-backed and we were not in our proper status. That's commercial death, by the way. You know, and so anything that we do, we don't come by ourselves. The whole state comes with us. And however and this is why a lot of times Moors would go on jobs and get a job, and whenever they would say, I'm a Moor, you're not supposed to tax me, sometimes they would not hear that. Because the employment was gained using citizen documents instead of affidavits. You know, I had that same thing to come up when right before I woke up, I put some applications in. This was in February and March of 2000, and it was actually December of 2016, and January, February, March of 2017, I put some applications in. And then in July, I woke up. That was when I first saw my first Ties to Reek Bay video. And I woke up during that time period, and everything changed for me then. And so, but I had already filled out citizen documents to get the job, you know. So I ended up turning down all three of them. They said, pick whichever one you want and you can have it, because they were all with the VA Medical Center in some capacity. And by the time I notified them and put the law out there about not tax status and everything being voluntary and all of that, I was like, okay, I'm not going to take any of this, because I can't go on the job being myself. And I think being myself is more important. I didn't know then that we were going to do all of this stuff now, but it makes sense now. And we also got to see how the inner workings of that system, like what Empress Angel was just pointing out about the wages and how all of that is actually, it's already set up in the laws and in the documentation. We just have to implement it, you know, lawfully and properly. Any more that goes on any job is automatically the owner and the CEO. But we have to know that and know how to state that, and then know how to teamwork while we're there. But know that the reason that any more that gets a job, should the same 6 documents should be put in place before you go and do anything. And then you take the application, you download it, you do not fill out their application, you fill out you recreate that application, and then you give the application. Why is that? Because you're applying in your state, not theirs. Your job comes from your state. And that is where that individual part that Empress Angel was talking about. We're not going on a job as an individual who's stateless. We have to state that we're not stateless. We're the Moors. We're the heirs. We're the state. We're the law. We're the government. And at some point, I'm pretty sure I'll do that demonstration and show you, you know, because we all need to know. Unless somebody else wants to do that part, and download an application, then take that application and say, okay, let me make this, go to Google Sheets and print up an application that you create and craft yourself. And then turn it in, you know. And when I say turn it in, again, it's going to be by court action, it's going to be by affidavit and all of that. Are there any questions for Empress Angel about her presentment and you know, anything of that nature? Any questions about? Okay. Let's see. I want to show you quickly another part of the Mercedes-Benz demonstration that the ancestors kind of brought to our attention, because we did take the documentation in, and I went out the door with the documentation, and the ancestors said, there's something else we want to show you before you take this down there. So even as I was on my way out to do the demonstration, they stopped me and said, go back and you need to address this and this and this and this. So I had to come back and do the documents that that I'm going to show you right now at this time. Let me see. I'll go ahead and just open all of these. Boy, they let's see. Okay, so just really quickly, a couple of documents that the ancestors brought to our attention, and stating that we need to yes, thank you, Empress Angel, so much for that presentment. We and actually we're going to be doing more with that whole piece, because as the state and the government, we have to manifest employment and employer and that our whole status there over a period of time. So let me show you just a couple of things that the ancestors called me back into the domicile and said, don't go there until you do these things. So one of the first things that they said to do is a registration receipt. Provide a receipt showing that the conveyance has already been registered in your state. So we used our Washington flag, which has an original indigenous George Washington, the original, on it, and the date of and the date that we became a state, which is 1313 on our Islamic calendar. And then I provided this information, the same information that would be on a registration receipt. And then they said, okay, provide a receipt for insurance. And so I looked at the insurance documentation that I saw that we got in our sleep, and I put that same information here, including one of the nobility brought up something about AAA. When we were in our sleep, and as you know, USAA was on the lien that we did for Mercedes-Benz. USAA was on that lien. And so now that once we had liened them, and we had liened them previously, but I wanted to be more specific for this particular demonstration also, the insurance had roadside assistance on it. So it had a number, and it had for claims for towing and all of that. It had all of this. It says this identification action is an affidavit for insurance statement. Keep a copy of this affidavit in your conveyance at all times. So we just took the language that was on the insurance information that we saw, and we said, okay, let's turn this into what it should be. That's really what attorneys were doing. They were changing the documentation to war against us, and so all we're doing is is reversion of estate or turning it back to what it should be. And then I referenced the lien that USAA, the courts was on. And then they also said to do a state and national identification, because this is what the ancestors told me as I was doing this, as I was preparing this demonstration. They said that to think about it from both sides of the transaction. Think about it. If you were Mercedes-Benz, which we are, what would you want to see if you were going to, do an exchange on a conveyance? What would you want to see from whoever it is that's sitting on the other side of the table? And I thought about all of the different exchanges and experiences that we've had, and this is what came forth. Okay. I would want to see some form of ID, and so I said, okay, our state ID. Okay. And then I would want to see an inspection report, because Empress Angel, you had asked an awesome question about inspection. So I looked at an inspection report to see what was on it, and then I recreated that inspection report for us. I looked at, I just said, okay, these are the things that they look for on an inspection report. So my inspection report looks exactly like one that they would create in their state. Okay. And then I said, okay, what else would I want to see? So these are the 4 documents. And then we already talked about this fiduciary document stating, what needed to be stated, and so on and so forth. So it only took me probably 10 or 15 minutes to put those 4 documents together, because the information is the same. It's just who is it coming from. Okay, so those are some things that I added to the Mercedes demonstration. And so then when you're talking about groceries, you want to think about all of that. If you're on the receiving side or if you're on the other side of the register and you're the one receiving this information, what would you want to see? If you were the manager, what would you want to see when someone is setting up an account for that store to come in and get groceries off of this account or this purchase order? What would you want to see from them? You want to see some form of ID, state ID, because that's the term they use a lot, because they were trying to hint to us we need to be having our own state ID. Okay, so whatever territory you're at, New York State, Washington State, and again, it's not state of anything. We make these IDs. We do this, okay, because we're the state. And so these are some things that the ancestors said, go ahead and think that through and add it to the demonstration. And then notify. So that's what we're doing. When we put these things on a public record, we're notifying all involved. The quote-unquote state of Washington Corporation been liened multiple times by many Moors, so that the real Washington can step forward and create these documents. Are there any questions about these documents and about why they're necessary? And because I'm thinking from both sides of that exchange, me as the buyer, quote unquote, and then me as the seller, quote unquote. Islam nobility.
This is Izine. I was thinking under your inspection report, you may want to consider adding anti-rust for the underbody of the conveyance. Because, say, for instance, you may be out or and someone like your your conveyance, and you may say, well, I'll sell it to you, or whatever, do an exchange. Then they may travel to the East Coast and reside for the rest of their lives. You throw that in and say, well, I live here on the West Coast, and that serves as a value, increased value to that conveyance. And they'll be happy that you did it, because majority, 99% of all conveyances on the East Coast rot out within a year.
Okay, you said underbody.
Add anti-rust for the underbody of the car, or for the conveyance. Anti-rust protection.
Okay.
For the underbody of the conveyance. The dealership, so-called dealership, should be in a position to do that, or have a subcontractor do it for you.
Rust.
That's adding value to your conveyance. And you'll point that out to a person who would love to exchange it, and you upgrade yourself later on.
Wouldn't that be called the chassis?
Yes, that is the chassis, but the wheel housing, you want to cover that as well.
Okay, so then underbody.
Underbody, including the chassis. Underbody, including the wheel house of the conveyance.
Okay.
Including the wheel housing.
Well, why don't we just say complete underbody?
Okay, that'll work.
Yeah.
Because as those wheels turn, it's causing the snow with the salt to roll up under the wheel housing, and that rots that out.
Yeah.
It totally will rot out the vehicle. Within a year's time, then you got a devalued conveyance, and the person's upset because they didn't think to get it done probably, just an oversight on their behalf. You point that out, they say, wow, I appreciate that.
Yeah, Islam. Consider it done, nobility. We know good information when we hear it. We know expertise when we hear it. We will learn. Islam.
I understand.
Islam. I don't have a link to these documents, Justice Dumois. I don't have a link to them to put in the chat, but I will put them under the video on YouTube for tonight. Will that be okay, Justice Dumois? His appellation says that we are French as well. Emperor Dumois, will that work? Okay, Islam. Richie is also French, except they spell it R-I-C-C-I. There was a Pope Richie way back in the 1600s who actually did a lot of craziness, depending on how you look at it. Islam. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom? Because we are always open for wisdom. We keep our hearts open, our minds open, and we are learning or remembering even as we go as well.
Islam. And I regrettably forgot to add something that I had put in the notes about the Article 15 of the Peace and Friendship Treaty, and it reads, Article 15, merchants of both countries shall employ only such interpreters and such other persons to assist them in business as they shall think proper. No commander of a vessel shall transport his cargo on board another vessel. He shall not be detained in port longer than he may think proper. And all persons employed in loading or unloading goods or in any other labor whatever shall be paid at customary rates, not more and not less. So I put interpret, to construe, to seek out the meaning of language, to translate, oral from one tongue to another, and that's Black's Law's 4th edition. So when it says merchants of both countries shall employ an interpreter, I put that definition and to seek out the meaning of the languages to translate, and that got me to understand that the Article 15 was talking about doing commerce with other countries, and it says no other person shall assist them in their business as they think shall proper. No commander of a vessel shall transfer his cargo on board another vessel, which means to me not accepting another person from another, somebody else's person. You got to keep your own person. And then shall not be detained in port no longer than he may think proper. So that means you have the right to state what is adequate for your hours of labor. And you shall be paid customary rates. So that's Article 15 of the Peace and Friendship Treaty. This one.
Empress, I believe our ancestors, they thought of everything. Do you? Another something that Article 15 is stating. Article 15 tells you why it is that Moors were getting pulled over and detained. That article that you just read tells why. When I got pulled over in 2017, it was because I had not taken the VIN number and nationalized it. So that conveyance, they were looking for contracts with that conveyance, and he found one expired contract from like 5, 6, 7, 8 years prior. And it was an insurance contract that had not been canceled. He found one contract, and he said, I'm going to have to look to see if I can send you a ticket for that. One. That was in 2017, and that's when terminate all corporate contracts. The ancestors were just put that in my spirit at that time, because the conveyance was conveying a sovereign, but the contract said citizen. That is carrying on board something that is that's a different type of vessel, even though it had Moorish tags, a different type of vessel. A vessel is known by the documents, the documents. It's either contracts or affidavits. And affidavits supersede contracts. But in 2017, I had not put on the record a termination of all corporate contracts. That didn't happen until like the end of 2018, middle or end of 2018, the ancestors were saying, y'all got to terminate those. That has to be done away with. So that article right there tells you why. And then when we do that, we actually had to proclaim that we're the state, unify like we've done, and say we're the state. Because only the state can even claim property, not individuals. And that's the problem that Moors had been having is they were doing things, yes, you're sovereign, but the ancestors, the way they put this together is we must be together. We have to unify and claim our statehood properly. So that's it right there.
Islam
nobility.
Yes. Along your line of what you were saying. Say, for instance, if you're in high school, your parents give you a conveyance for graduation. You don't think nothing of it about having it naturalized. You may go off to school, military. You still don't think anything about it. You may have one of your relatives just keep your car until you do your full service in the military, and you still haven't thought about naturalizing your conveyance. So you come back, they kept it in very good shape for you. You jumped in, they got all the so-called plates registered and up to date. But one thing that most people who have plates on their cars are not aware of, and that's one thing which they never do, is look at the decal. Now, I don't know about Seattle territory, but here in Khalifa, you have a decal, and when you pull the adhesiveness separate the adhesiveness from the decal to put on the plate. No one never takes the time to look behind the decal before you put it on the plate. Have you ever looked at yours? If you get a decal, some of them come from the manufacturer already printed on there, but here you have to get the adhesive decal to put on the plate. Take the old one off, or just put it over the existing one, and now that's considered active to be on the roadway. But at the same time, when you attach it to the vehicle, that becomes government property.
It says this decal is the property of such and such, state of such and such, and
exactly.
it looks like a hologram. I did look back there because I'm like, what are we really doing here? What are we really doing?
So what you're really doing is you're looking at it. You get it in the mail. You look at it, but if you take no action, say for instance, if you do not take the action of attaching that to your plate, then it's still private property. But once you attach that decal to the plate, it becomes government, United States corporation property.
And
just
it's
by
not,
you attaching
even if you don't
decal.
attach it, it's stateless. They say it's stateless.
Yeah, but you got right. That is true. They will assume that. But the next step for you would be to go to the naturalization office. And that's the office in every county, city, state, and federal location, territories. And that naturalization office is nothing but the clerk of record.
Okay, so that's assuming that you're not using Moorish state plates.
Exactly. But because if you don't, because they're gonna put that in the database anyway, and that way you will say if you want to keep those plates, then what they'll do is register it in their database to not to detain, not to stop that particular conveyance, because it's already in the database. He's gonna run those plates prior to pulling you over. So that's your choice. You could put the Moor's plates on, and then take your chances of being pulled over. You may be going to a wedding or a friend.
No, you don't take
a friend to go
do that properly. You're protecting yourself when you do it properly. You're taking a chance if you contracting with them.
I agree, but at the same time, you're not contracting with them when you go to the naturalization office.
You actually are. Yes, you are actually. Because think about naturalization. Naturalization is for citizens. And even citizens that are naturalized, there's a contract there somewhere that says you had to naturalize. Why? Because you're not from here. Because
you're right. I was thinking along the lines of if you want to mitigate the stops by these policyholders, but you're right. Disregard it.
Well, no,
that'll fit well for the subjects.
Things because the only way to make the stop is to be yourself all the way. I am living proof of that, and many other Moors are living proof of that. The only way to be to make it so they never stop you is to be yourself 100% of the time with everything. Terminate all corporate contracts and don't go back to them for anything. And then even if there's something, if there's a benefit that you want to take advantage of on your vast estate, look at what they have. I went into the dealership and I got a purchase order, which I probably could have gotten online, but I was just doing what the ancestors said. They said, go get the purchase order, talk to the Moor so you can introduce him to himself. Then take the purchase order home and make it a receipt. I'm not even going to turn that stuff. I didn't even turn theirs in because why? I'm not using it. It might as well be burnt in the fire. It's dead. I already have a purchase order receipt. So even with tags and things like that, I have a conveyance. There's two conveyances here at this domicile. One is my consort's and one is my daughter's. Now, my conveyance has mortgage tags on it, but hers does not and his does not. They don't even pull me over if I'm in her conveyance. If I'm traveling in her conveyance, they don't do that. Because here they already know. We've already put it on the public record. And this is the thing about property, Moors. You have to get past personam jurisdiction before you can even get to property. And even with the last demonstration that I did, they would not tow her conveyance. With the POW demonstration that I did in 2021, I believe it was, that was the last POW demonstration where we didn't take anything from them. We didn't eat the food. We didn't do any of that. Her conveyance, the quote-unquote Federal Way Police Department would not tow it. They told the guy that was unlawfully occupying that place, who had to get out, they told him, if you want it moved, you're going to have to tow it because we're not touching it. Because they knew already. And the only thing I didn't do was say, all rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. So her conveyance had those the tags that were issued by them, but the tags still don't belong to them because they had to get past me to even touch it, and they knew they couldn't. They knew they were not going to get past me. So City of Federal Way Police Department did not tow it. They wouldn't tow it. They told him, if you want it moved, you're going to have to do it because we're not doing it.
Is it true to say, Islam, is it true to say that those two, your daughter and your console conveyances, were not, or were they on your fiduciary?
They were not.
Okay.
They were not, and they still wouldn't touch it. Because you still have to get past the Moor. You got to get past personam jurisdiction in order to get to territorial jurisdiction. And then in order to get to the conveyance is subject matter jurisdiction. That's the third one. You got to get past personam and territorial first. And they knew they were not getting past personam jurisdiction with me. They know that. So they wouldn't touch it. And it's got, it didn't have Moorish plates on it. It's got the subject, the inferior corporate plate. And it's really not even inferior if they can't get past me. It's inferior according to the Constitution, but it's still our subject property. Subject property. Subjects don't own anything, okay? But because of the fiduciary, I'm the fiduciary for that. I'm the fiduciary. Islam.
Oh, yes. I had a question. This is K29L, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania territory. How do you go about, you say nationalizing a VIN number?
So you want the fiduciary document does that, but then you also want to create title to the conveyance. And on the title, you put the VIN number on there, on the title that you create. In other words, you can create title, you can create registration in your sovereign state, not theirs, not any corporate state, and that's nationalizing it. We do it by our documentation.
Oh, okay.
Just like what I showed here, Washington is our state. State of Washington Corporation is what they were claiming, and that's not where we are. Washington is the land. That's how you nationalize and naturalize property, is you take those numbers and you place a lien on the old ones. Place a lien on the old, that VIN number or whatever, and then just like what we did with this Mercedes demonstration. We placed the lien on Mercedes. We placed the lien on Land Rover, whoever the which is Jaguar makes those. And so we placed the lien on them, and we placed the lien on all of that.
Okay.
And then you put, yeah. Does that, did I clear that up, Nobility? Because I want to be sure that that when you ask the question that that it is answered thoroughly. Because sometimes I do go off onto, you know, give more information than is necessary with the answers, but it's only because I'm trying to assist. But did that help with regard to how to nationalize the VIN number? Lien, and then produce your own documentation for that number.
Question regarding registration renewal.
Yes.
I'm thinking when that come up for expiration, you're just going to have to go through this whole process again, or you're just going to do an affidavit for registration renewal only?
So I can do an affidavit, and I've already thought that through. The affidavit that we're doing, because see, it's registered with our state and not theirs. So we just notify them of how long the registration is. If it's a permanent registration, because it's a state vehicle, then you just notify them that this is a permanent registration, and with a picture of the tag. That's it. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Instead of putting an expiration period there, you could leave it as permanent until you decided to change it. Yes.
Yeah, the only reason that I put an expiration date there, thank you for noticing that. I just love that you notice everything because I do.
Thank you.
You know, I think it's important for us to do that, all of us, to just train ourselves to notice everything. The reason I put an expiration date there is because I know that we put a system in place to keep track of registrations in our, you know, in our states. And so our states need to have expiration dates so that as new people come into our states, as new Moors wake up and come into our state, we know who that is, and we have, you know, and we have a system in place whereby they can get whatever it is that they need, and proper registration is on the books. You know, in the event that some come in with some of that old theft of automobile baggage from colonialism. We want to do things as closely as possible to what they were doing while we were in our sleep, because those are accountability measures for the estate that we taught them. And so that's why I put the date there. You know, the expiration date, because I thought about that. We have wide latitude and wide leeway on doing things. I just want to make sure that we take complete control, and we've already done that, complete control of the system in its current state, and then we make the changes as we go. And as Moors come over, then we say, okay, we don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to renew tags anymore. Once you get a tag in the state, you got it. Yeah. Thank you for that.
I was
question.
thinking also,
Mm-hmm.
You may want to draft something for the glove box showing original deed, which would be your holder in due course title to the conveyance. Draft original deed, because under the rule of evidence, it says that you know,
the title would do that.
Which title? The title you get from the dealership?
No, the title that we create.
Oh, the title you created. Okay, yes.
Dealerships don't have titles. That's why people have to send off to the quote-unquote Secretary of State, because Secretary of State, quote-unquote, supposedly had claimed all abandoned property. Our property is abandoned, so we create the title to it.
That's true.
But, yeah, they don't have titles.
Yes, that's true, because your existing conveyances are the real titles in Sacramento. So the one that you have, say for instance, the ones who are not aware of it, the title that you do have in the glove box for ones who are not aware of it is just a certificate, and that's just a dead fake document. doesn't give you ownership of your conveyance.
Well, neither does titles from Sacramento give you ownership either, because they can still tow it.
That's true.
You
that's
see,
true.
so that's
but
why
they're
we have
holding it.
The original title.
Yeah. Correct. They're holding the so-called original for trade for global trading.
Yeah,
it's
not even real. It's not even real, or else nobody could tow it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And then put a towing fee on it, which is a lien, and keep it if you don't pay that. You know.
Right. But see, say for instance, you got your original title of your affidavit, so state that. Now you come back and someone say you was too late getting back to your conveyance. There's a tow truck, got it loaded, and raising it up, and you say, "Wait a minute, that's my automobile. I own it." Okay, so what you got to pull out your affidavit showing that you have true title as a Moor, and he may get into an argument. You just want to have to say, "Well, we need to just call the local policyholders, get this squared away." When he arrives, you show him your affidavit of title. He has to drop that vehicle back to the street and let you ride away. Conveyance.
So I see what you're saying, Nobility, but now that we know the right way to notify and the right documentation, they shouldn't pick it up when they see it marked because see, according to the treaty, when the ships are marked and flying the right flag, then there is no towing and picking up and taking things. But we have to know how to do that. And how to do that is we properly bring that conveyance into our sovereign state. And then that's why we don't use their tags, because, see, they can make a mistake with their tags and think that it's in their state when really it's not. It's in our state.
Yeah,
Islam. What comes to mind is, Empress, when you had shared with me that video concerning the shutdown of the county out here in New York,
County.
and Suffolk County, and how the modern day European was saying how there should be worldwide news, and they can't even do any title searches or anything of that nature. And then my consort did some other searching, and he found something else that had been done like 10 years ago that stopped people from getting access to something else that you had found, Viv. Anyway, to the point, the good brother who was speaking about, getting cars towed and all these hypotheticals, and the reality of it all, for the business that's no longer being able to be done in Suffolk County, that's just a trailer, as if it were, to what's to come, as far as all these corporations no longer being able to do anything. Come to a complete halt, stop, cease, desist, and nothing. And because it's all being reverted back to the true government. So when you really meditate on that, truly with the meditate, then you will honestly know that the ways in which the Empress Light has been, admonishing us to do, put on the public record, it's the only true way to get things done, is to put on a public record. Because if the county can't even get a title search, really? Why would we even send anything there to get anything registered or anything of that nature? Because they can't even do a simple title search. You think about how simple that is on some sites. They have it free out here in the boroughs of New York, but you can't even do it for Suffolk County at this point in time. And they're calling it a hack, a black cat, by the way. They say a black cat cyber attack. And really, how much of code do you need to have that understood? Because that's real code. Because black cats are not bad luck. Let's just put that out there. They are not. And our cats are ancient, and cats were keeping the rodents out. That's what they did in their silos. They kept the rodents out, and they did a whole bunch of other things as well as keep us safe, give us warning for certain things, and so on and so forth. But to the point of it's over. It is so over that, and we've been doing everything right, and we will continue to do everything right because the public notices is the only way to go. Because I can remember of other people I've listened to about filing it here, filing it there, and I said that to myself a long time ago. Like, when the system shuts down, are you going to have access to what you've put in their system? And the answer is you can't. You can't access it because it was their system. So it's going to go down in a sinking ship with them. I mean, think of a capsizing boat. When it capsizes, it creates a huge vacuum and everything goes down very fast once it's reached a certain, suction of, whatever. Anyway, yeah, it's down. It's over.
Yeah.
It's so done over.
It is, and that's something to think about. I put one of the articles up there about that Suffolk County ransomware attack, where Suffolk County, the corporation known doing business that was previously doing business at Suffolk County, all of their systems went down, and that is why we speak by affidavit, because at any time, even if that happened with everything, and we're not putting that energy out there, but even if it did, all we have to do is go onto our computer. We don't even need the internet. Go onto our computer and print out another one, another title to all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. And that's proof. And stamp and seal it and carry it on down, Postmaster General style. And so we're straight. And that's actually what all of this was preparing us for, is should that happen, okay, who's going to claim what? Well, we got proof that this was on the public record way when, because we got a bunch of green receipts saying that we sent it. And we have everything we need. Everything we need, even if this whole system just shut down, we have everything we need. Everything. And here's the beauty of that. So many of us have put so many different things on the public record stating who we are in so many different places that if all the counties shut down, we still got Facebook or ScriptD or our own websites and things like that. If the whole internet shut down, we're good. Even with our banking, Google Sheets, we can do that offline too. We don't even need the internet for that. So then what? We're straight. We're set, and that's what and then we got money printed out and everything. We got documents with even if, let's say, for example, quote unquote, King County, if they had that problem, we got documents with stamps and seals all over it, so they can't say it didn't come from the right place, which is our court. We're straight, Moors. We're straight, and that's what the ancestors wanted, was for us to just be straight, to be taken care of as we make this transition to just all the wealth that is ours, period. So the work that you've done is what has already saved you. It's a wrap. And so with that being said, is there any other brilliant wisdom that anyone else wants to put? Because this is some good wisdom coming out
Islam
from the Moors.
One quick thing about the Passover, because it's in the bibliotext about red and the cross on the doorpost, right? So when you really reflect on that, it's coming to the point of the Passover and how we, the Moors, who put that red on in the spirit, on the public notices, and those public notices do protect your doorposts because it's posted.
Yes.
That part, right? So when you, yes, that part. So it's gonna pass over you the reaping of those calling back the debt.
Yes.
And because we're the ones calling the debt, you have to have yourself and know who you are and have presented yourself as such. And if you don't know who you are to present yourself, then you will be rounded up.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, back in the day, back in my days of going to the 501c3s, there was a movie that we used to watch, and it was talking about the decapitation of Left Behind series, I think it was.
Yes, I was about to say, I know you're about to talk about Left Behind and the
Yes, honey. Yes, right. So and the people that was lined up, and you had to either announce or renounce, and if you didn't, your head would be cut off, and that's just another showing of decapitation.
Yes, it is. The movie The Rapture that they showed in church, and they also showed a movie called Left Behind in church, and those movies were about, when we get to this point, and those movies are they took it literally because, they took it literally when really it's on paper.
Yes, yes.
It's on paper. Because that's the only place that frauds existed, and I'm not saying that all Christians are frauds, because a lot of them are not frauds. There are some real ones. But what I am saying, though, is that commercial mercenary Christianity, quote unquote, that's a decapitation situation on paper. In other words, you capitulate or decapitate on paper. On paper. That's another no one can buy or sell unless they have the mark situation. We just came out of that, by the way. That whole no one can buy and sell unless you have a dead corpse corporate social security number. That was a mark and a fraudulent birth certificate. So we just came out of that, and now we're in the millennium and the new reign and all of that, the latter rain and all of that. This is now heaven. Let us put that on the public record. So, with that being stated, I have nothing further for this assembly. Islam Empress, you asked a question. I do want to bring that up really quickly.
I'm not getting my head around.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So here on the screen is a lien. This is one of our liens on the screen. This is the lien that we did for the United States. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to lien the social just by making a few corrections with it.
Social, it's the VIN number. I'm trying to. Because I know there's a VIN number, but who do what's the corporation connected to the VIN number? That's
It would be the manufacturer of the conveyance. The ones pretending to be the manufacturer.
Okay. Thank you. That was a missing. I was just like, I can't put the number with something. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So if it's a Subaru, then it's the Subaru manufacturer. Okay.
And then whoever the manufacturing headquarters is claiming to be, that's the address. And then Now
I noticed that your lien was in blue.
Yes. But the debtors are in black.
Correct, but my liens have been in red up to this point. So
that's fine.
I'm still in that world, but
you're still the Lord, still.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes, Islam, and what you say goes.
Absolutely.
Period.
All right. Thank you.
So with that being stated, let's see. I believe we are. I have nothing further. Is there any other questions, comments, etc., from this grand and divinely intelligent assembly, congressional assembly.
Islam.
Islam, yes, divinity.
I know. Well, it's noted that at least 80 global so-called central banks are creating digitized currency, and they indicating that probably within the next 12 months, you're going to see about 90% of these so-called central banks throughout the world as a whole using this digitized currency to try to circumvent themselves of getting around what the Vatican ordered, I guess, for them to do. But at the same time, that's what's going to be happening. And the Federal Reserve Bank basically is controlling the wealth to the 1% elite by extending to them $1 trillion loans at 0% interest. And what they're doing is doing a whole bunch of different things, buying up all the foreclosures, things of this nature, bridge loans, and a whole bunch of things with the subjects to take control of the assets to a temporary point. So, but at the same time, Wall Street is also one of the biggest landlords. Basically, they are. I would say a new paradigm shift because they basically got $40 trillion in circulation, which they are draining from the once upon a time middle class. So that's in effect as I speak.
So then I guess the citizens don't own anything then, huh?
There you go.
I wonder who's doing that.
Well, the Federal Reserve is really the ones who are calling the shots for the subjects at this point.
Okay.
But what they're doing, they're raising the interest rate for the benefit of the 1% elite.
And who is that?
The Moors.
Well,
Islam.
Thank you, Empress. I know.
Islam.
I see you talking yourself into that, and I'm like, I know he know where he going with that. I know he know where he going with that.
Exactly.
We have called in all the debt. We said on our liens, and we have it on the public record, only lawful currency. So what's happening? All the debt is being called in, like we said. So yeah, we're the Federal Reserve. We're the 1%. We're all of that. We are changing. We have changed the money system. It is a wrap. It's done already. It's already done.
Yes.
Yeah. So
well, China's leading the way with this digitized currency in terms of something like a coin. They are out there worldwide pushing it from their end.
Okay, so let me say this about that. Digitized currency is simply changing the name of a regular old bank account where you go onto the internet and you move something from checking to savings. That's digitized currency. They just called it something different. They just changed the name.
Islam, that's literally what I was going to say, because that's just their way of figuring out to be valid for as long as they can until they're obliterated, because there can't be two heads. So they're just phasing and slowly fading and drifting away because they can't use substance of tangible dollar debt notes no more. So they had to go into the ether of digital currency. So, and even there they won't remain in the digital currency, and because they're going to eventually, evaporate into the nothingness of the abyss. So, that's just the last ditch effort phase for them before they are out of here. So that's it.
Well, that's a temporary diversion.
Yeah, that was simply to make it so that they have a way to get off of the fiat, because they, It wouldn't make sense for us to say, well, it wouldn't make sense for them to still try to hold on to fiat when we have said you can't hold on to fiat. So Bitcoin and CBDCs and digital currencies was just a way to get those who were originally pushing fiat off the fiat. That's all that was. And so, you know.
That's true. But that's because they still following the so-called President of the United States Corporation executive order. And they got busy trying to circumvent what the Moors had put in place. That's all.
Well, and it wasn't even a circumvention. It was actually running head first into capitulation.
Islam.
Head first into capitulation.
Islam.
When I say head first, I mean head first. Islam, divinity.
And at the beginning of the call, you talked about how secretly they were putting gold dollar for dollar. So secretly, they are doing what we are telling them to do, even though on the forefront it looks like they are making all these changes that people are going to follow, but they've already put in place which way they're going to go, and they already said the gold standard. So now all we got to do, so now we have put the gold standard in place, and everybody's in line. I mean, we said that at the beginning of the call that whatever you see in the mainstream is not what's going on behind the scenes. We already got. They are already doing what is commanded by the Moors.
Of course, it's done already. I mean, you know, it's already done, and there's a reason why it's called cryptocurrency. A crypt is where the dead go, where you put dead people.
Yeah, it's dead.
It's all in the language. And then when you give a regular old bank account, you now calling it a digital wallet. Really? You calling it a digital wallet? How is that different from a bank account? How?
Just don't give me no food, or I'm gonna be mad.
It doesn't, it's no different. And how about this? They've just recently discovered, quote unquote, that the Federal Reserve Corporation was behind Bitcoin the whole time. It wasn't the mysterious Nishi Nakamoto or whoever they said it was. It was actually the Federal Reserve behind Bitcoin the whole time.
Islam, like I stated, is the last ditch effort. But also, when you change your name, you change your jurisdiction, technically. So, when they stop calling it a bank account and they change it to digital accounts or digital currency or what have you, that's changing on paper jurisdiction from one to the next. So, like I said, it's like they're leaving. They knew they had to create another system before they had to go. And so, like I said, also, you've been saying this, you can't have two heads.
Right. We're talking about corpses leaving. We're not talking about living, breathing beings.
Well, yes, the likewise. But even still, the corporate dead corporation can no longer remain. And so it's out. And for them to create the cryptocurrency is them knowing that they had to figure out something.
They didn't even create it. They just said, okay, we're gonna call these bank accounts digital wallets. We just gonna call them something different, and that way people will leave the fiat piece and go to that. And the selling point of Bitcoin was that it's decentralized and that the quote unquote government can't get to it.
Mm-hmm.
But the government created it. And when I say the government created it, that digital currency and all of that, we did that thousands of years ago, millions of years ago. That's nothing new. It's nothing new.
Islam. Under that dead system, for the past 40 years, only 1% growth in the last 40 years basically lower for the lower working class. They only gain that only 1% out of 40 years under that dead system.
And I would venture to say that none
of
of them even saw that 1%. None of them saw any value from that 1%, especially when you factor in the last 3 years, particularly with the shots and all of that stuff. When you factor in the work stoppage from all of that and the debt that continued to pile up from all of that, they're in the negative. They are absolutely in the negative. And that's corpses are in the negative. So, and that's another reason why we must continue. We have to start throwing some credit around. And I don't mean throwing around haphazardly, but we have to start using our credit. We must start using our credit. Not debt, credit. Islam. The new system is already, the Belt and Road, everything is already in place. All we have to do is keep doing what we're doing. Keep moving ahead and learning or remembering how to use our credit, which is completely different almost than what we were used to. That's why these processes. That's why these demonstrations. Because being heirs is a whole lot different from being a subject or a citizen. It's a lot different. Just is. Islam. Thank you for all that we have made this roundtable, this congressional assembly successful by hearing from everyone. That part I absolutely love. Thank you for your wisdom. We're learning and all growing together, and for that I'm just extremely grateful. With that being said, we will adjourn for now, and we will meet back again on Sunday at 6 p.m. For more learning how to be, remembering how to be heirs, and remembering how to be the executors, ministers, beneficiaries, trustees, and creditors for all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. Islam, peace, and grand rising.
Islam.
Peace and grand rising. Happy 922-0222.
Peace and grand rising. Great lesson tonight.
Islam.
Islam. Grand rising. Moor.
Grand rising.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam. Peace.
Islam.